The Super Nintendo version of NBA Live 95 features final 1994 season rosters. As such, it captured a couple of very brief stints, specifically Dominique Wilkins with the Los Angeles Clippers and Danny Manning with the Atlanta Hawks, in the wake of them being traded for each other at the deadline. It's one of the most infamous NBA trades of the 90s, and arguably all time. It's a story worth looking into if you're not familiar with it. I'd recommend Hoops Analyst's deep dive article, but the short version is that despite a surprising turnaround, one that saw them challenging the Knicks and Bulls for the top seed in the East, by 1994, the Hawks didn't see the 34-year-old Dominique Wilkins as the future, or indeed, the present. With Wilkins in the final year of his contract, Atlanta rolled the dice at the trade deadline and swapped him for Danny Manning, a former number 1 pick and 2-time All-Star who led the Clippers to their best seasons prior to Lob City. The Clippers were terrible once more in 1994 though, and with Manning also in the last year of his deal, and likely to walk, they were open to trading him. The swap didn't help them in the long run, but they didn't exactly blow up a team that was going anywhere, and it got them a flashy future Hall of Famer for half a season. Atlanta finished atop the East, but they were knocked out in the second round by the Indiana Pacers in 6 games. Meanwhile, the Clippers went 8-17 in Nique's 25 games with the team, finishing 27-55 to head back to the lottery. Both Wilkins and Manning moved on in the offseason, going to the Boston Celtics and Phoenix Suns respectively. In fact, Nique signed with the Celtics early enough for the moves to be included in the Genesis and Mega Drive version of NBA Live 95, with its partially updated 1994 off-season rosters. So that's the backstory of why Nique is a Clipper and Manning is a Hawk in NBA Live 95 for Super Nintendo, and how the trade panned out in real life. What about its impact on the virtual hardwood? Beyond making them interesting lineups to play with in NBA Live 95, if you simulate through season mode with default rosters, the Hawks will be a high 50s or even 60 win team, while the Clippers will be a 20-something win team, or worse. In other words, in the ballpark of their actual records of 57-25 and 27-55 respectively. In fact, the simulated results are fairly good across the board, which is impressive for a game of its vintage. But what if we undo that trade? Well, first of all, their jerseys will be swapped appropriately in their portraits, thanks to the way that NBA Live 95 matches headshots with an assortment of shoulders. More importantly though, it breaks the game when you simulate through the season. When you swap Wilkins and Manning, the Hawks will usually go 82-0 in a simulation, while the Clippers will frequently fall to 0-82, though sometimes they'll pick up a single win. It's one of the craziest simulated results I've ever seen that doesn't involve completely stacking or ruining a team's roster. Sure, Wilkins was the superior player, but Manning causing the Clippers to lose every single game is hardly realistic, and frankly, more than a bit insulting to him. I had to see if swapping the human highlight film with anyone else would also yield a drastic change in fortunes. And so, I traded him to Chicago, a team that normally wins 55 or more games in simulation, for Scottie Pippen. Lo and behold, the Clippers went 1-81 with Pip instead of Nique, while the Bulls went 79-3. On one hand, it's proof that it isn't just a case of Danny Manning being slighted. On the other hand, it's also proof that Dominique Wilkins is an absolute game breaker when it comes to NBA Live 95 sim engine. After that, I had to see whether removing Nique from the Clippers but stacking their starting lineup with stars would overcome his absence. So, here we go. A lineup of Scottie Pippen, Hakeem Olajuwon, Karl Malone, Anthony Hardaway, and Reggie Miller. 5 members of the 1996 Dream Team. That lineup can produce an 82-0 season with a slew of 40 and 50 point wins, but look at this. The Bulls, with Nique instead of Pippen, still went 80-2, the only 2 losses being to the stacked Clippers. So yes, it takes 5 stars to equal Dominique Wilkins' game-breaking abilities. Losing Hakeem Olajuwon and Karl Malone also absolutely tanked the Houston Rockets and Utah Jazz, though admittedly, Elmore Spencer and Lloyd Vaught weren't exactly a fair return for them. Just out of interest though, I tried swapping them for better replacements, Shaquille O'Neal for Olajuwon and Shawn Kemp for Malone. Would exchanging those All-Stars completely confuse the sim engine, similar to trading Dominique Wilkins? As it turns out, yes. The Rockets actually fare better with Shaq in the middle, achieving 70 wins in simulation. The Jazz bottom out though, while replacing the Rain Man with the Mailman propelled the Seattle Supersonics to an 82-0 record. Meanwhile, the Magic struggled to a 41-41 finish with Hakeem, which is definitely underrating his impact. It seems that the sim engine really wants certain plays to be in specific places. While the simulated results should be affected by stars moving around, not everyone is a good match everywhere and thus interchangeable. After all, the changes shouldn't be this drastic. Clearly, it's not just Dominique Wilkins that can break the sim engine in NBA Live 95 by being traded. Karl Malone can do it too, and there are probably more examples to find as well. The game also doesn't know what to do if you swap Shaq and the Dream. Nique is arguably the most interesting example though, since he did actually get traded during the 1994 season, and reversing that deal is how I discovered these comically lopsided results. Once again though, at least it's not an intentional shot at Danny Manning. It's not altogether surprising. simulator results in 90s basketball games could be hit and miss, and it's a testament to NBA Live 95 that its default rosters do actually produce quite realistic results. It's a house of cards though, and even swapping two elite players for one another is enough to bring it crashing down. As for the human highlight film, while the 1994 Hawks may or may not have fared better had he finished the year with them, it was still very unfortunate that they parted ways like that. In NBA Live 95 though, he's definitely a difference maker. And a game breaker.